Hey everyone, and welcome to a showcase of Hetherlum's top mobile games of 2017. Mobile gaming has taken off big time, and I just love a lot of games on mobile platforms. They tend to include compelling progression that just keeps going, and combine that with frequent updates. Unfortunately, during this entire year I didn't really pick up a lot of new games to try out or play. I hope to do that within 2018 for sure. So maybe then we will also have brand new games in the next list. Hopefully. Let's get started. First game to mention is probably Dungeon Link. This is a cute looking puzzle RPG where you try to reach all squares on the board to get the most out of your turn. Yes, it's also turn-based, where enemies and you take turns clearing the board. The game includes various ways for you to be able to get stronger. For example, you can limit break by combining duplicate heroes into the heroes you use to increase their level cap. You can awaken your characters by grinding for materials that allow you to gain even more stats, and this is something you have to do to progress properly. You can also enhance level and awaken your equipment pieces and add runes to your characters. The game includes a lot of story content. There are currently more than 40 areas, each of which includes 3 difficulty modes and up to 12 levels per difficulty for you to go through. There are also different types of towers, which each challenge you in a different way. For example, Tower of Magic doesn't give you colored endpoints. You have to figure the best paths out for yourself. Next up is Dragon Blaze. This one is tricky. Because of the slow update cycle we had for about half of 2017, I almost excluded it from this list. They seem to be trying to get back to a more frequent cycle. The development speed itself isn't the problem here, it's that people are content starved. If you have a long-term progression system, then you can schedule updates less frequently. But Dragon Blaze did not have such a system in place. Dragon Blaze has an excellent art style and I like the story. The game also includes smooth and logical character growth for how the content keeps moving forward. Finally, near the end of 2017, we got one of 2 features which granted the game long-term progression in the form of runes. The second feature is translated into Challenger Dungeon and will arrive in 2018. An online RPG, especially a mobile one, requires long-term progression, and Dragon Blaze was probably the only one which didn't have any until now. A new player's upgrade path goes from regular allies to deities to key units to transcended allies. The key units will be removed very soon, so the upgrade path becomes shorter, because the game is now all about transcended allies. It's easy to keep up with the game, and essences, which are materials you need to use to go through the upgrade path, are plentiful. They really are. Moving on to Heroes of Incredible Tales. This is an action RPG with interesting progression ideas. I haven't actually reached the level cap just yet, because I haven't played it a lot. But I have played it enough to know that it's a standout game for me. What progression possibilities are there? A few examples would be, for example, you can have a pet who you can give equipment to, which in turn gives you bonus stats on top of what your own equipment already does. There is also a gem upgrading system, which is something I always like in games. You combine 5 of a gem to make one of a better gem, and this keeps going higher than probably any other game I've played to date. There is a passive stats system called the Training Ground, which is simply a leveling system for various different stats like attack, health or defense. I think there is also a max level progression system, something that a lot of games seem to lack, even though it's a perfect opportunity to lengthen a game and give more reason to keep grinding. There are also a lot of different game modes for you to do on a daily basis, which increase the game's overall variety. You got 2 types of towers, one of which resets every day. There's also kind of a gauntlet mode where you can bring 4 of your own characters to help get as far as possible. The game's arena mode is manual play only, so I don't do it very often, but that's an interesting addition for sure. It even has multiplayer dungeons and raids, where you can bring 3 or more other players with you. That's rare in a mobile action RPG and usually reserved to party-based games. Critical White Knights is also a game, and it happened to be in the last year's list. This is a game with probably the highest progression ceiling of any game ever. You have the mastery leveling system at max character level, gem upgrading, gem absorption feature where your equipment pieces gain bonus stats from gems on top of equipped gems. You have equipment itself and equipment enhanced bonuses and milestones. You also have a separate gem system from gems you equip on equipment, so a lot of different gems. You have pets, costume boosts and meteorites. Meteorites are kind of like gems but with percentage boosts instead of flat rates. Critical includes plenty of game modes for you to participate in on a daily basis, and it's a game which you can't get bored of, although it does require a bit too much attention, because of how fast you run out of inventory space and energies, so you can replenish them again, because you can't have a lot at a time. In general, you can play this game for about 15 hours on a single character, but that includes a lot of small stops, where you have to empty your inventory. Gameplay itself is fast-paced and highly satisfying. For the last game we have Seven Knights. Seven Knights is a different kind of a game, because this one doesn't really rely on grinding. I have gotten pretty far without grinding a lot. I have done maybe at most 25 runs a day in a dungeon, and mostly even less than that. Despite that, I still have more than 4 groups worth of characters who are partly or fully transcended, and 2 groups worth of awakened characters at the moment with over 1100 of the awakening materials. Seven Knights has a very high amount of variety when it comes to character choices. Every awakened character is viable in some way. That's a design choice I can really get behind. However, I do wish more of the 6-star characters would get an awakened version. There are a lot who didn't get it, even in the original version of the game. Another thing which makes Seven Knights somewhat unique is that it gets updated every single week with something. You either get new costumes, a new character, new content or new features. There's at least something interesting to look forward to. The game also has a lot of different game modes, and some of them are designed with the idea in mind that they take a long time. You can have battles which take upwards to an hour. There are also a few honorable mentions of games which have potential but still need work to be eligible for Hetherlum's top list spots. I was thinking long and hard whether to even include this here, but one of these games is Onmyoji Begins, which actually did release in 2017. It's unfortunate that costumes are only either from events or premium, but that's just how it is. Anyway, Onmyoji Begins is a grind-based RPG with a fun linear progression for each character. It can take a very long time to get through the entire talent tree, but each few changes do have an impact on your combat experience. The problems with this game are that there doesn't seem to be any real time put into the story. It's very bare bones, and voice acting is something else. Another problem is that there aren't a lot of things to do. Although the progression part is long enough, I would still love to have some additional dungeon types for alternative progression paths, especially at the endgame. One honorable mention goes to a game that has since shut down. Chaos Chronicle was unique in terms of gameplay. I wish I could find alternative games for it. Unfortunately, this particular game wasn't popular enough to keep servers open, and was shut down on 18th of December 2017, and will definitely be missed. What made the gameplay different from most mobile games that I've come across? You had a system where enemies attacked the one closest to them, so you built groups in such a way that allowed you to keep the tank at the front for as much of the time as possible. The feel of the game was very different from regular RPGs. Evil Bane is an action RPG which I really like the impactful gameplay of. Unfortunately, however, the game doesn't have enough different types of game modes to keep the fun going past the main progression and story modes. It doesn't even really have alternative progression paths other than your equipment. Plenty of potential, good gameplay, but just not varied enough. Originally, when talking about Evil Bane, I wanted to say that there was a server stabilization update recently, so expect this one to shut down soon. But the top list's videos were delayed by so long that we saw an official announcement of termination from this game's developers. Last honorable mention goes to King's Raid. I have not played this game nearly enough to judge it just yet, so it will have to deal with this spot for 2017, even if it is a great game. From what I have experienced so far, King's Raid has a lot of potential, and it's another one of those games with linear character progression through star qualities. I like this new trend because this actually puts 1 and 2 star qualities in spotlight as opposed to being pointless things. In a lot of games you just skip straight to the maximum possible star level, and those poor lower stars don't get any attention. My own game that I made up back in 2005 or 2006 was supposed to have star qualities as a sign of progression. And this is my short overview of games that stood out more than others. There are probably even more great mobile games out there which I didn't mention. It's most likely due to the fact that I didn't play them. What are your top mobile games from 2017?